Sarah here. Thanks for joining me for our 3 poses on hips. Today it's all about that base. It's all about the hips. So, 2 things you might like to have for practice today: a block, potentially, and a pillow or a pillow. Basically, like a large pillow would be like your best buddy for today's practice. So we're going to start easy and then get deep, and I'll show you lots of different options. So let's start with a little call to our breath, a little draw attention to that. Close your eyes. Come to a comfortable seated position. Let's start in your comfortable seat with your left shin in front today. And this will draw us to our first pose. So this is called easy seated pose. So you're cross-legged or crisscross applesauce, as I remember they used to call it in elementary school. Breathing in through your nose and out. If you are a very tight person, your knees might be up a little bit towards the middle end of your body. You might be kind of dumping into the low back. And if you are one of these people and you look like this, that's okay. Just grab a pillow, just sit on something, just give yourself a little bit of a boost, and then notice the difference in the low back. Let your knees, they will fall on their own out to the side. And then as we continue to draw attention to that breath, I'm going to have you take the fingertips in front of you. And then I'm going to start to have you walk those fingertips forward. So you're coming into a forward fold. And then maybe you can walk a little bit further forward. And you'll start to feel your low back release. You'll start to feel the outside of the hips wake up. And maybe on your exhale you want to get a little bit deeper. And then depending on how you feel in your head and neck, I want you to really let it go. But if it's too much, if you're high up, sometimes this can be too much. You can grab a little pillow or use a ball. Staying here for somewhere around 15 breaths, 10 to 15. The hips are a big, solidly built joint. So we could spend a lot of time here. You could stay in this pose for 10 minutes if you wanted to. If that felt really good, which it might. I often do. Finding your edge, that sweet spot here. It's not too much, not too little. You might even notice that the pose doesn't even really begin until about 10 or 15 breaths in. And if that's the case with you, then you should stay. You should stay and hang out there for a little while longer. But for the sake of time, we're going to inhale and press up. And then switch. Take your right shin in front of your left shin. You will already notice a difference. It might not be a sizable difference, but it may be. Maybe. Fingertips to the mat or the floor in front of you. Walk, 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 walk on your exhale and breathe. Find an equality of breath. When your monkey mind starts to stray and leap from branch to branch, bring it back to your breath. Attach to that ujjayi, that oceanic noise, that victorious breath. 3 more breaths. And then inhale. Go ahead and place yourself up. So these next 2 poses I'm going to show you 2 different versions of. One upright and one reclined. You're going to take your block on a diagonal. You can put your pillow on top if you want or not. It's not a big deal. Come onto all fours. Take your time getting there. And then you're going to swing your right knee towards your right wrist. And your toes are going to kick out towards your left. So we're going to come into what is called then, obviously, as you can see, your left leg sneaking behind you and extended. So if you're super tight through your hips, your low back, front of your hip flexors, this pose may not be the pose for you, and I'll show you the reclined version in a moment. So this is one option if you're pretty tight. You want to make sure that the tension, there's no tension in your knee. So the wider this joint becomes, like the full expression of this pose, your shin is parallel to the top of your mat. So the wider the joint, the more vulnerable the knee becomes. So you can draw that right heel further back, closer towards the inner thigh or the groin, or you can have it somewhere ideally as kind of middle ground, somewhere between parallel and all the way back at a severe angle. Now you can stay upright if that seems best for you, but if you come down, you'll see what I'm talking about. You'll feel it on the outside of that right hip, strongly. If you're more flexible than this, no block. Stay for 10 to 15 breaths. Again, the hips are these huge, stable, strong joints. We can get in there, we can dig, and we can stay for a long period of time. So, you can recline, you can even lay your chest all the way flat, make a little pillow with your hands. I'm thinking more than likely, however, that the fullest expression of this pose, which I'm basically in now, may not be for you. So, block under the thigh, big pillow under the thigh. Or, I'll show you, so in yin yoga we call this swan and sleeping swan. In active or vinyasa style yoga we call it pigeon. And when you are reclined, which I will show you now, it's called eye of the needle. So if you need to take the reclined version, you're going to bend the right knee just as if you were on the mat, but cross it over your left thigh. So the right knee bends, it's like you're making a figure 4 with your legs. And then you're going to draw your left leg in towards your body and thread the needle. So you're drawing your right hand in between the legs and the left on the outside. And you'll get that same sensation that you would if you were upright. If you have any tension or you're worried about your right knee joint, you can flex that right foot really strongly to support around the knee. And then gently letting the left leg go, unwinding the right, and coming into the opposite side. Since I'm already reclined, I'll just do the left here. Bend the left knee, draw the left heel over the right thigh. Knee out to the side like a figure 4, thread the needle. Drawing both palms. So your palms can go on your thigh, your palms could go to a strap if you're not quite to the shin. The shin is not imperative. To protect the knee, you can flex the foot. And 10, 15, 25 breaths. Even out your sides until you feel like this side is just as flexible as the previous. And exhale, go ahead and let that go. Unwind the foot. You can windshield up your knees side to side if you need to. Anything, just kind of shake up the outside of those hips. And then our last pose is called shoelace pose. Since I'm already reclined, I'm going to show you shoelace from the mat. So this is for the tighter individual. Cross your right leg over your left leg, just like you're being a nice dainty lady. Now then you're going to drop both knees in towards your chest. Left palm comes to right ankle, right palm comes to left ankle. So you can use straps if this is not accessible to you, but you're basically trying to frame your hips with either heel. So give a little bit of a tug, pull the heels back. So again, be mindful of your knee joint. We want no pain in the knee here, all the sensation is in your hips. Breathe, breathe, breathe. This is going to stretch into the piriformis, your glutes, medial, and maximus. So if you feel like the reclined version is for you, you can stay here for another 5 or 6 breaths. And after 5 or 6 breaths, go ahead and unwind. And then I'm going to roll up, and then just switch sides. I'm going to roll up and show you the seated version of this pose, and you can just switch sides if you're reclined and you're loving it, and do the other side. So we cross right over first, let's cross left over. So right leg is extended, left knee gets on top of the right knee. So you see the left heel is framing the outside of the right hip. So this, if you come forward, may be enough for you. However, full expression is bending that right knee and using your heels to frame your hips. Both sits bones firmly planted on the ground. Depending on the rotation of your hips, you might feel this a little bit on the inner thigh, you might feel it way on the outside of the hips, you might find it really more down on the bottom towards the sits bones, and then you're just going to find your way forward. Shoelace pose, like you're tying up a shoelace. This is truly one of my favorite poses. Love it. So good for you. This also stretches into that IT band area, which we talked about in a previous video. And then after you spend a good amount of time, gently inhale, come all the way up. Unwind your legs. If you're reclined, you can roll up, shake them out. I'm going to take the soles of my feet together, knees open wide to say goodbye, because this is one more hip opener, sneaking in the 4th pose. Palms to the heart center. Thank you so much for joining me. There are 3.5 poses for the hips. Namaste.